Welcome back, Alisa.
Hi. Hi, how are you doing?
I am well, thank you. And it's always a treat to see you.
That's so great. Thank you so much for having me back. I really love these times we have.
And I'm so excited about all the stuff that's happening within the Empress. I'm so proud of you. You're always like, you have new things up your sleeve, all sorts of things are happening. So, for our listeners who don't know about the Empress yet, can you tell us a little bit about what you are creating online with this beautiful platform?
So the Empress started out as a very simple platform because menopause is hard and perimenopause is particularly hard. And so it's essentially a community and a content site for getting through it all. And the idea was that maybe there weren't three phases to a woman's life in the typical Jungian sense of maiden, mother, crone, because not everyone follows that path at all. And so that there was this missing phase, and it could be the Empress phase, and that the idea of the middle between that kind of career or mother phase and that crone phase, that in between that messy middle, there might be a lot of power and there might be a lot of creativity, highly generative creativity. And how could we take advantage of that messy middle and reclaim that time as our own? So we wanted to bring resources and content and products that actually worked and ideas that we wanted to bring into the conversation and change the way we talked about menopause and perimenopause, because it's a hard time and it's a long time. It can stretch out over a decade. And so we started talking and we found that women talked back, and they had a lot of ideas about what they wanted to see and question and know more about. So since then, we've just been growing.
What has been your biggest surprise about this? And when I say this, the midlife journey, what would you say that has been the most surprising to you?
How bespoke everyone's experience is. I think that, and you will see so many different manifestations of perimenopause, and it may start because of a surgical procedure that suddenly finds you dealing with your hormones in ways that you never thought. Or it may start when you're really young, like it did with me. It started at 39, which is pretty young to start perimenopause. And then it may blossom into a whole medical set of comorbidities and conditions that you may not have even anticipated. And so everyone has their own journey. And what surprised me the most is that it was very much something that no one had ever talked about and that was never mentioned at all to me even by my own mother. And that it was such an intense, full-scale, multi-level transformation. And I'm not saying anything really any different than any other person in this space is saying, but I think for me that it was this time where also my brain was waking up in midlife, where in fact, yes, I had my brain fog moments, but I was also forging connections. I could see like different connections between different types of knowledges and different experiences. And I had a kind of wisdom that I could tune into that I hadn't had in my past, in my younger life. And I didn't panic. And so I had access to, and I didn't have the kind of anxiety always that I'd had before, because there was a kind of experience of, oh, I've been here before. Oh, I know what to do here. Oh, I can do this, but without all the drama, because I actually have some solutions. So I was forging connections between dots that hadn't been connected before. And that for me was a nice experience about coming into my 50s. And I'm about to turn 55. And it's been some of the best time of my life. So that it could be so positive, I think was the most surprising.
And for listeners who are like, what are the symptoms? I'm not sure. Am I in perimenopause? Am I in menopause? Am I not? And I know it is unique for everyone, but what would you say are, for listeners who are not quite sure where they fall, that would be helpful for them?
The biggest thing we hear with the Empress is, I don't feel like myself at all. And that's the first thing. It's like, I don't feel like myself. Everything is weird. And you may feel I had hot flashes in meetings with my corporate meanie bosses. But I also had tremendous torrential night sweats. But you may also feel we have readers write in to say, I have bitch itch. I just feel itchy all the time. And that's another symptom. There are like over 30 symptoms of menopause. You may have insomnia. You may have mood issues and irritation. So that threshold of frustration may be a little lower and to where you're like, don't do that. And you may feel anxiety in a way that you haven't. And so it gets misdiagnosed sometimes as an anxiety or depression or some sort of thing, when really what you need to be looking at is, hormones, and are those in balance, or are those in play in a way that need to look at? You may feel, gosh, all kinds of skin irritations, but also you may feel everything from a dry vagina. I never thought I'd hear or say the word vagina as much as I do these days, but there may be all kinds of things going on down there that you had not planned for. And you're taking a look at it and going, oh, well, how do there are new UTIs that you never thought possible. So there's a lot to pay attention to. And you'll go to talk to your doctor. And most of our doctors, at least in the US, if they've gone through an OBGYN training, they may have only had 4 hours of menopause training their entire 4 years of medical school. They may not be comfortable or equipped to have the kind of deep conversations or even time, because they're called upon to see so many patients during a day that they're like, oh gosh, you're having all these symptoms? Okay, give me the top 3 that we can deal with right now so we can get you to a good space, and then we'll deal with the rest. So you've got to prioritize your symptoms for them so that they can get through and help you. There's a lot, but it's also like planning your visits so that you can make your visits the most productive is one thing we talk about a lot with women. But it's so case by case, and it can be a question of women can go through so much agony to where they're thinking of leaving their jobs because they don't feel like they can function. The brain fog issue is not something that is imaginary, but you'll have women think, oh my gosh, am I going into early dementia? So now there are ways to screen for, is this perimenopause, menopause, brain fog, or do I need to take a look at this for longer term, more serious cognitive decline? So those are important things to look at during this time.
Yeah, these are such good reminders of all the different symptoms, all the ways it can show up, and all the different layers to it.
Breast tenderness, you're like, am I pregnant? Oh my gosh, no. Am I pregnant? Because that's a symptom of pregnancy. And suddenly you feel like, oh my gosh, my breasts are so tender during perimenopause. It's perimenopause. So
Right.
there are all these wackadoo, I just don't know what's going on with me. But the big thing is I don't feel like myself. And we're so governed by our hormones. And so that's when it's time to check in with your provider. And if your provider isn't willing to have the conversation, to really look at a specialist or someone who takes into account midlife care and says, hey, I want to spend time with women who are going through this, and this is my area of focus. And so that's someone who would be registered with the North American Menopause Society, and someone who is said, like, again, someone like Dr. Heather Bartos, who says, hey, this is my only area of specialty that I want to focus on. And I'm not going to push you down a HRT route. There are all kinds of solutions that you can, because you want someone who's going to listen to you.
And what are some of your go-to rituals or kind of wellness practices to help navigate all of this? Do you have a certain routine you follow or a favorite supplement? I don't know, whatever might be most useful for you.
I don't want to, because of sleep, and sleep is my biggest love and cure-all for every stressful thing that I'm in, or every decision that I'm sweating, or every thing that I have to figure out. sleep is my main thing, and I don't want to live in a world without magnesium. And so that thing just, I have cut way down on any sort of alcohol because I feel after age 40, my body stopped being able to metabolize it in the same way. Of course, I love to be celebratory like the next person, but I find that if I have a mocktail that is one of the adaptogen ones that has magnesium in it, it's very relaxing. It's very soothing. So that sort of ritual at the end of the day, when I'm done writing, when I want to take a pause, I will do that sometimes, but I start the day with a practice of yoga. I know it's very everyone like I do yoga, but I do just a 15-minute start of the day open to just open my heart. I have one pose that just keeps me from curling into a little mollusk over my computer. Yeah, it's my twisting half moon. And it just helps me open everything up for the day. And having that breath work and having that at the beginning of the day. And then also, I'm not a good meditator at all, but I meditate when walking. Like walking for me is just the cure all. So when I get out midday, I'll write until 2 o'clock and work on the Empress and working with our different founders. Because right now we're working with a woman founder who's amazing. Her name is Susan Campbell, and she's founded Fosis Skincare. And it's specifically for midlife women. And I will work until about 2 and then go for a walk. And it's not a fast walk, but it's also with all the other women. I'll see them out in the park and we'll catch each other and go, okay, you're out here too. You're out here doing it. And we're just in our groove and no one's talking. Everybody's just doing their meditative, trance-like pace of just we're going and it's peaceful. And there'll be the dogs out and it's wonderful. And it just clears my head. And that sort of between walking, some yoga, and sleep. And again, sleep is the key thing for me. And this is the thing that I think plagues so many. There's a wonderful book called Why We Can't Sleep.
So good.
Isn't it? It is the best book. And I think it is just the problem. I don't know if it's limited to American women, that it is our nation's problem, but it is something that I feel like every woman in the US needs to take a look in midlife, needs to read this book and pay attention and put into it and figure out like their mode of how to sleep. Because it is the one thing that will see you through the waves of life.
For sure. Yes, such a good book. Great recommendation. And what else, whenever you think about career, right? You've had such a wide variety, like with your career, you've done so much and such success as a writer and what have you. And so I'm just curious, like, what have you noticed with careers for women in midlife? How are their shifts? Embracing creativity and really, I don't know, just like tapping into something innate.
They have more creativity than ever in midlife. But I also see a wobble, and I felt a wobble myself. And it's not just one wobble. And this is the thing. You don't need it's not just about building your confidence up one time and going through life coach training, or you have to keep going back to the well to build your confidence and restore it and borrow confidence from those resources and those role models and mentors. There are times when I've said, when I've been in really difficult situations and I've said, okay, so I'm going to borrow Christine Baranski's confidence right now because I love her. She's the actress from The Good Fight, and she's an attorney, and she's in The Good Fight, and it's one of my favorite shows because she's not afraid of anything. And I'm like, I'm just going to channel that not afraid of anything. not afraid. I'm totally comfortable. And this is another thing that I do, one little ritual that I do, which is my future self is going to solve this. My future self is going to know how to figure this out. My future self is going to figure this out. And so that's my little mantra. If I can't figure something out in the moment, there's that. But it's also the other one is I'm totally comfortable with this. I can totally, like when I need to calm my nervous system down for an upcoming meeting or an upcoming situation that might be a high conflict or even a medium conflict. I'm like, I'm totally comfortable with this conversation. I've done this before. I'm totally comfortable. And that was like my Christine Baranski good fight moment where I knew it was going to be a high conflict moment with an attorney. And I was like, I'm totally comfortable with this. I'm totally comfortable with this. These are just two guys talking. These are just two guys talking. I've been a two guy talking too. And so I've been a guy, I can be a guy talking too. And it was fine. And it was one of those things where you can, if you can put yourself in the right mindset and the right story to succeed and to make friends with your own nervous system in the moment, you'll be all right. And you have to make friends with your fears in those moments. And what happens with midlife women in career is that you'll feel invisible and you'll feel, I don't know, a wobble. And that's when you need that tribe of women and men, allies, to bolster you, to help to say, no, no, that's that valid and to validate and just say, no, that's good. Keep going with that. This is there. And if you're fortunate and you can build that little tribe of people to build you up and to lift you up, that's going to be that tribe that you can keep returning to and you give back to them. But it's not just a one-time thing. If I got my confidence back and I'm back, it's not the comeback. It's the comeback and the comeback and the comeback.
Yeah. And for you, what has been, whenever you think of your evolution in career, what's helped you take those next steps, right? To even start the Empress, or you seem very connected, right? You seem to have a big network, and to reach out to these people or get to know these people. I'm just curious how you've brought all this together.
Some of it's been accidental, just sheer idiot's luck and sitting in the wrong seat on the airplane. Wait, this is totally oh, it's not my seat. Oh, wait, who are you? And total accident, idiot's luck. But then also taking a chance to say, I have this idea. What do you think about this? And do you think this could be a thing? If you wanted to do this thing, there's this thing that we could do. So reaching out again with the idea and not really, and leading with the idea to build a network around an idea of a thing that we could do, not leading with the idea of getting somewhere or getting a job or or building the network per se. It's more, hey, there's a thing we could do. What do you think about this? So it's always leading with that kind of conversation of what's wrong here or what could be right here or what if we did this? Sitting with Alicia Dara when we were starting the Institute for Women's Futures and saying, you know what would be great is if we could give a scholarship to young doctors so that they would choose to study menopause. And we could call it something cool like the Women Who Run with the Wolves Fellowship or something like that. And just sitting around and bouncing that off the wall. I'm like, we could get someone to fund that. We could do that. And then suddenly going, you know what? Let's start a 501c3 and see if we can do it. And then let's go find a doctor who will help us do this. And then we found Heather Bartos and she was like, oh, we can do that. And then figuring out that, yeah, we can do a mobile healthcare where we give mammograms away and cancer screenings and hormone replacement therapy and things that people need and flash kits for menopause when women are just in total crisis and serve women who don't have access to healthcare in places that don't have menopause healthcare specialists in rural areas, urban areas that are underserved. And so all of that comes from just the idea of going, what if we did this? And connecting over networks, whether social networks or running into each other at events. Alicia had been interviewed through the London School of Economics, and I had been producing a podcast there. And that was how I'd met her. And I thought she was so remarkable. That was how I followed up with her. And, it was all like, you would be great at this. And so I think it's just when I pivot or when I have an idea, I always connect it to the person who who would be like, have the amazing skills for it or the resources to see it through. And I tend to think of it in terms of execution. Who would be great to execute on it? And I don't have to be there at the end of it, but I'm always like putting that, and they may come from very different worlds, the people. Mm-hmm. And invariably what happens is that over a lifetime, that network snowballs into this kooky, eclectic network of people who are like, what? You're over there and I'm over here.
And it works. Yeah.
And it works. And you feel like the Kevin Bacon of your brand, of your little branding and story world. But so some days I feel like Kevin Bacon, but I'm not Kevin Bacon. And I'm mostly just a writer.
Yeah. Doing a lot of wonderful things in the world.
Mostly I'm just writing Gotham Girl, and I just want to write. And if the Empress takes on its own life and other people run it, that's fine too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And as you look ahead, what is your vision for what's next for you? If you look at yourself, you're 55, almost 55, right? Say 65. Is there like I want to still be living in the Bay Area, or I want to be, I don't know, in France? What's your vision for yourself?
Oh gosh, I want to be, I'm not, I think I always want to be writing. I don't ever anticipate quitting that. I think I want to be writing more books because I feel, and I definitely want to keep writing on Substack because I love it there. I love the connection that I've found there. And I want to see the Institute for Women's Futures really blossom in terms of a legacy and a foundation that does good for women and helps women, because end stage poverty for women, whether it's healthcare, whether it's housing or financial security, all of that needs to be addressed because that is a major problem for women in the US. 80% of US women end their lives in poverty because they have not saved enough or they live longer than their partners. And so I see doing a lot of work there. I see doing a lot of work on books. And in terms of where I live, I just want to live someplace that all our children will visit us a lot so that they want to come visit us and that feels like climate's appropriate and safe for us. Because having been through wildfires, earthquakes, I'm just, I'm ready. I'm ready for just eat a little easier. And bears this last summer. So I'm like, can we just go to London and be in a safe little, or Dorset, or I don't know, just even New York feels safe right now. I don't know, big country does not feel safe right now. Wildfires do not feel safe. But yeah, I love France. I love France beyond measure. And I've spent a ton of time there over the years and speak the language and love it there. But again, it's where your children, will they come and visit you, or will the rest of your family come and visit you? And I'm a big whole family. So will you come and visit? I'll settle there if you'll come and visit.
Well,
and I'll cook.
And you'll cook. You're like, I will make you a nice little meal, please.
I'll make you a pie. I'll make you
a big pie.
Big pie.
I love it.
Just come and visit and play bananagrams with me and hang out and let me write and I'll come and see you and that kind of stuff.
Before I ask you my last question is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you want to be sure to mention to our listeners about your journey in midlife?
I mean, I think it's just so important as we go along. There's so many menopause influencers and midlife influencers and whatnot, is that people just realize that you've got to be your own guru. And if you're going to, and really you're on your own sort of heroine's journey, to borrow that. And that story piece, like it's easy to lose the sense of your own story in the middle of it all. And I think there's a lot to be said for reclaiming your story and taking time to reclaim it. And I know that sounds probably maybe sound a bit trite, but we so rush about, and to be able to stop, and whether it's journaling that you do or whether it's even vocal journaling. And I saw a new thing of AI journaling where you can say to the AI, hey AI, I want you to be a midlife coach and I want you to be practicing CBT and put that hat on. And so here's a question, an issue I want you to unpack for me. And it will question you, and you can journal along with it. So there are all these ways of getting creative with midlife that you can explore. And so I think the most important thing I would say to people is to nurture your curiosity with it rather than getting caught in the misery of it and overwhelmed. Because the moment you succumb to the misery, if you can tune into the curiosity, your curiosity, you can start to solve things.
Curiosity, huge. Thank you. Good reminder. So, the last question for you is the name of the podcast, Tranquility du Jour. And I know you've answered this one before. But how are you finding tranquility in your everyday and midlife with all the responsibilities, the sandwich generation, dealing with aging parents, dealing with children, the whole thing, all the different layers that we deal with in midlife?
Tranquility du jour, my cup of tea. You know what? I had coffee this morning with my partner, and we did not look at our phones or look at any media or anything. And we just took that 20 minutes and looked at each other and touched and just held hands. And if you can do that with someone and hang on to them for 20 minutes and look in their eyes, it can be the best possible thing in the world. And that's all I needed.
Touch is so important, right?
I've been traveling so much, and I just needed to hold a hand and have that moment of just quiet.
Quietude. I like that. Yes. Thank you so much, Alisa. It's always a treat to see you.
Yeah, and you too.